2 minutes to start time. Have we started the live as yet? Okay. Hi guys, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us for Critical English Grade 7. Today we'll be continuing a topic we started earlier in the week on narrative writing. And if narrative writing sounds like a big fancy thing, it really isn't. It's really just storytelling, and we're doing it in written form. So with us today we have our usual students. We have Alicia, Tiana, and we have Azaria. I always have to pause a little before I say her name. So if you can see them in the live, they're actually doing some drawing because their teacher kind of drew something on the board and they were laughing at me. So I challenged them to do better than me. So now they're drawing what I have on the board. Now the reason why they're doing this drawing, or the reason why I drew that thing on the board there, is that we want to talk a little bit about setting and the importance of setting to a story. So let's take a break from our drawing, girls. We can continue that in a minute or so, right? So let's take a break from that and let's focus a little bit on what we're discussing today. So setting. Your story is happening. Your story needs characters and your story needs to take place somewhere. The place can be space, the place can be earth, the place can be the Rupununi, it can be Georgetown, it can be in the ocean. So let's try to describe the setting that's going on here. What do you see? What's the first thing that stands out to you when you look at this image here?
A woman walking her dog.
A woman walking her dog. Excellent. We don't know what kind of dog it is. Could be a rice eater, right? Or a pit bull. And I'm not sure. She's walking her dog on the road. And we know this is a street here because we're seeing cars. Now think for a minute. If you're on the street and you're seeing cars, you're also going to be hearing what? Vehicles. What do they do when they want to overtake or alert somebody that they're coming?
Horn?
Sometimes they blow their horn, right? Or honk their horn. And sometimes you can hear people talking, or sometimes drivers are arguing, and those different things, right? If you were standing here where this lady is, what are some other things you think you might be seeing? You can, trees, excellent, trees. And the trees are they this color in real life? Mm-hmm. What color are they usually?
Green, and the trunk is brown.
Green, brown, and if they're a flowering plant, you may see flowers on them too, right? Good. And sometimes even birds. So we have a building there. It's supposed to be a skyscraper, but I know I didn't really cut it. But yeah, we have a building there. You're not seeing anybody there. So does it look like a busy part of the day? Are we seeing a lot of cars? No. Are we seeing a lot of persons on the road? So it could be just before, like maybe 7 in the morning, where you don't have a lot of persons out as yet, or even earlier, like 5 in the morning or so, where people are not out to do their everyday business or so forth. So when you think of setting, what is one word you're thinking of? Your story has to happen somewhere or a place. So remember the stories that you started last week? Can you remember the setting of your story, Azario? Where was your story happening? You forgot? Anybody? All right, let's start with, we're going to come back to you then, right? Alicia, let's go to you. Where was your story happening?
On the sidewalk and walk to the playground.
Good, the playground or the park you had said, right? So her story is happening in the park. What about your story, Tiano?
Mine is happening in the forest.
In the forest, right? And remember yours now?
Linden.
Linden by the
Blue Lake.
Blue Lake. Good. Well, they have many lakes. They're one of the Blue Lakes. Definitely. So your setting is where your story is happening. So it could be a physical place, but it also has to do with the mood of the story or the atmosphere in the story. So if you're going to a funeral, a lot of people will be sad, or the word we learned the other day, serious, like a sober moment. Remember that word? Good. Or if you are at a party, how would people be feeling? Happy, right? Excited. And like how some of you are waiting on results. We won't call names, but what is one feeling a child may feel as they're waiting for the results? Nervous is a feeling too, right? There's also anxious. So anxious can be good and anxious can be bad. You can be excited for your birthday party tomorrow. You're anxious. You can be worried about a test tomorrow. That's also anxiety. You're being anxious there. So setting doesn't just have to do with the physical location where your story is taking place, but it also has to do with the atmosphere. What is the mood of the story? Are people worried in the story? Are they sad? Are they happy? Are they excited? Those different things, right? So think about that as you're writing your story. Now let's go back to this image here. What sense are you using to understand what is happening here? Sense of sight. What are some of the other senses we have? Good. Sense of hearing. Touch. That's also called kinesthetic, right? Touch. So we need 2 more. Eyes, hearing, touch, taste, and smell, right? Good. So we have those images, those I forgot the word. I forgot the word. Okay, I'm brain dead. We're talking about senses, the 5 senses that we have. So they're associated with seeing, what you're hearing, what you're smelling, what you're tasting, and what you can touch. So as we're writing our story, we want to introduce a reader to where our story is taking place and you don't have to use all of those senses, but you can try to focus on maybe 1 or 2 of them. Is the water cold where the Linden Blue Lake is? Is it cold? Is it chilly? Is it hot? You know, sometimes it's hot, but the water will be cool. So that will be sense of touch because you're talking about temperature there. Is the sun hot? Is it blistering hot? Is the water as blue as the sky? You know those different things? So notice you started your story already, Alicia, and as happy something you were saying, right? So that emotion there, I want you to capture that emotion in a place. So I already read your first paragraph for the story, and excellent work by all of you because you know what you want to say, right? And that's the main thing. So now let's look at the other part that we have there. We have character introduction. So the character is, what is the character in the story?
The person that's doing everything.
Good, the person in the story, the person who's doing the action in the story. So can it only be a human? No, it could also be
Animal.
an animal. Can it be a plant as well? Yeah, some cartoons have plants talking. Good. It could be anything that is given life in that story. It could be a table that is talking, or some people say your shoe's laughing when it got a little opening in the front. So there can even be a movie where your shoe is doing all the talking. There's a movie as well where there's a sausage talking, I think, a hot dog. I don't remember the name of it. But there are lots of movies where things that are not humans are the main characters in the story, movie, whatever the case is, right? So when you're introducing your character, remember the person who is reading your story wouldn't know who this person is. So what are some things you can do as you introduce your character? When you introduce yourself, you would say, my name is whatever, right? Would that be an interesting way to introduce your character? My character name is... Would that be nice? You think somebody would want to read that story if you start like that? So what's one interesting way we can introduce our character? Think about how we talked about setting just now. How can we introduce our character now? Using the senses, we describe our character. But sometimes you don't see somebody, you don't hear them, but when you can use dialogue, you know that? When you say, remember when we were doing that a few weeks ago, we were talking about the quotation marks? So the quotation mark is exactly what someone says. So you can even start a story. Anybody ever got hollered by the teacher in school or the headmistress? Yeah? Maybe to sit down or to go back to class or to stop playing or something, yeah? Or you've seen it happen before? Good. So maybe you can even start a story like that with somebody telling somebody, like giving them a command or shouting at them, and you have that in quotation marks. So the minute you see that, you're like, oh, this person is a strong person, it's a strong individual. They don't mince anything. You can't play around with them, right? You got to be serious when you're around them. So your story can start anyway. And the thing is, you're the master of it. You decide how it goes. And you have total control over all of that, right? So I want you to think again about the story that you already started. And I want you to do two things for me. You're going to edit your story using the settings and using the character introduction. So I want you to do both things. Set the scene for the story for me. And then, so you have like, let's read your stories and then we're going to try fix each other. Because I think if I give you the time to write, it's going to be a little weird, right? So let's have, who would like to volunteer to read their first passage? Their first paragraph, sorry. Tiana? Tiana is avoiding eye contact, that's why I called her. So we're going to start with Tiana, go over to Azaria, and then come back to Alicia. So give us the title of your story and then what you already have on it.
The Python in the Forest.
The Python in the Forest, excellent.
In an old enchanted forest, Tanjiro lives in an empty cabin. One afternoon, he went into this forest to gather logs to cook delicious meals for his family. But as he ascended further into the woods, he encountered a huge python beside the wood that he needed to collect to cook his meal. But since Tanjiro had an axe in his bag, he used it to kill the snake. After killing the snake, Tanjiro collected the wood and then returned home to cook his dinner.
Thank you very much for sharing that interesting start to your story. So we know where her story is happening, right? It's happening in the woods or the forest or the jungle or the bush, whichever one you want to use. How can we make that a little bit more interesting? How can we paint a picture for somebody who's reading it? What's a forest? What will it be like? Describe it for me. First of all, there will be a lot of trees. So now describe that setting for me now.
Scarce trees. It has scarce trees.
Don't you mean a lot of trees? If it's a
but,
forest?
like, sometimes there's not that much trees. So in the part he's living, he cut down most of the trees.
Oh, okay. So
yeah.
So when he goes into the forest, wouldn't there be a lot of trees there? Or so now describe that part for me. Will it be bright? Will it be dark?
It will be dark.
It will be dark, right? So your character goes into the dark forest where there were clusters of green. You don't even have to say green trees. You could say trees looking like what? Green, what do you call that thing? What is called the seawall that's sweet and it's fluffy like like a, a cloud. What's it? Oh, cotton candy. We could say it's green, green as, you know, or it looks like cotton candy and green or whatever. Help me out there. So it's dark, it's a lot of green. What else? When he's walking, does it make a sound?
Yes.
Yeah, what sound does it make?
Sticks crunching on his
Sticks crunching beneath his feet, right? Isn't that interesting? Good. And if you're in a forest, what other songs will you be hearing?
Crickets.
Crickets might be there, yes.
Birds chirping.
If it's later in the afternoon, you'll hear crickets, yes. If it's early in the day, you may hear birds chirping and probably some animal doing some weird thing that you can't identify, right? So maybe he was hearing scary songs or something of that sort. What else could be happening there? So we talked about what we're seeing, right? We talked about what we're hearing. Could he possibly be smelling anything? If you're in a forest and the leaves have fallen on the ground, they start to rot or decay, so they would have a particular scent there, right? So maybe the air smelled of rotten wood or leaves or something.
Animal poop.
Animal poop, that too, yes. That could be there too, but yeah, I probably wouldn't want to smell that. Okay, so we talked about that, hearing, smelling, and he hasn't cooked his food as yet, so we won't bring in the taste as yet. What about touch? Oh, we said when he walks on the forest floor, the sticks will crunch or will something like that, right? Good. So we talked about touch there. So you think you have a better idea of how to go about setting that scene up in the forest with your character? And what are some things you want to describe, some things you want to say about your character to describe him? Is he short? Does he have red hair? Does he wear a green coat? Yes, I know what you're talking about. You said he also has an axe, right? So you can also describe that. So as you're describing your setting, the character in your setting also needs to be described. Sounds good? So you're going to get started on that. And you don't have to write right now, but if you think that the ideas are flowing now and you need to write, you can start jotting down those points. We're going to go to Azaria. You're going to read yours for us. And her story is taking us to Linden. So from the forest, we're going to Linden by one of the blue lakes. So read your first paragraph for us. And it's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. If it was perfect, you didn't need a teacher. You didn't need to go to school, right? So it's okay. Go ahead.
Once upon a time, there was a girl named Aliko.
Mm-hmm.
She's kind and generous child. Everyone loved her in the neighborhood. One day, Alika's mom told her that they're going to visit her father in Linden. It was a bumpy ride to Linden. When she reached, it was very hot.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. So at the start of your story, your character is not in Linden as yet. She's probably in her room, right? So that means when you're describing the setting, you'll be describing her room. So help me figure out what's going on with her room. Or maybe she could be in the living room, or she could be outside with her mom or something. Where in the house will she be when she and her mom are having this conversation? Upstairs, downstairs, kitchen, or coop? House or outside?
House.
Okay, room or living room? Bedroom?
No.
Living room? Kitchen? Kitchen? Okay, which other room is there? Well, can't talk about the washroom, so it can't be the washroom.
Living room.
Living room. So they're probably looking at TV? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So go ahead, describe their living room for us. Maybe the TV is on, but they're not really listening or looking at it.
A soft chair.
A soft chair. So your character is sitting on a soft chair. It's as smooth as velvet, right? You know how velvet is smooth? Good. What else? Is it hot? Is it cold? Do they have AC? Is a fan running? What?
It was a cool room.
It was a cool room. Do they have AC or it's early in the morning?
AC.
AC. Okay, so it's a cool room. She's on her nice velvet sofa. What else going on? She got her foot up on the chair because she's on holiday, right? Or maybe because mommy's around, her foot's not on the chair, right? Good. What else is happening? So that's the touch we're talking about, right? The velvet feel of the chair. That's a touch. What color is the room painted in?
I like a bluish, darkish green.
Bluish, darkish green. So something like a turquoise then.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, good. So that's the color of the room. What else can we talk about? So we talk about what it feels like, what it looks like. What about your character? Is she tiny? Is she tall? Does she have curly hair? Does she have straight hair?
Curly hair.
Curly hair. Okay. Does she have brown hair, black hair,
Brown.
green hair? Brown hair. Okay, good. So your character has curly hair. So how can we describe her curly hair? Hair. Soft, wavy hair. Or we could say bouncy curls or something like that, right? She's like a film star and she just whips her hair over like that. All right, good. See how we're getting interesting there? So then her mom tells her, okay, so we're going to Linden, whatever. Does her mom sound excited? Does her mom sound sad? Because we know she's excited to go because she's seeing her dad, right? But does the mom convey that same happiness like her?
Not really.
Because it could be like her mom said.
Mostly, yes.
Yeah, mostly. Okay. So her mom said, we could say in a dry voice, or we could say in an excited voice, that we're going to Linden this weekend. So you need to get packed for us to go.
Or maybe she's just dropping off the child and going back.
Well, if she's doing that, she might be hurrying her then, right? Because if she wants to come back to town, then she'll be like, hurry up, let's get going, right? And then you got to run and pack your bags and whatnot, right? So that mood there that's being set there, thank you. The mood that's being set there is one of urgency. They have to get back, they have to go because they have this big trip to go on, right? Good. So we describe the room, we describe the feelings going on at the moment. We can also learn a little bit about the mom and the daughter. Do they spend a lot of time together? Does it look like they just say, do this, do that, end of story and nothing else? So all of that will come over in your first paragraph. Do you think you're okay with that? Yeah? So just remember at least 2 of your senses you're going to use to describe a setting and to also describe a little bit about your characters. And you may also use dialogue because the mom is saying something to the daughter, right? So you can have exactly what she said in the quotation marks to show that this is exactly what she said. And when you're doing composition writing or story writing or narrative writing in school, can you use Creole?
No.
You can. You can if it is used in the quotation marks. So if your mom say, "Y'all come here," "Y'all come here" gonna be in the quotation marks, but the rest of the paragraph will be in standard English. So you can use it, but it's just how you use it in the writing. Interesting? Didn't know that before. Okay, I hope nobody come and attack me afterwards. All right, let's go to Alicia. Share your paragraph with us and we'll wrap up with yours. And then you guys have more homework to do for me, right? Go ahead, Alicia.
The weekend had just started. Jack was as happy as a lark as he had passed his exam and couldn't wait to celebrate even more. Jennifer, his mom, couldn't be any happier to celebrate her son's accomplishment. Jack had been anxiously awaiting for the community playground to open. Feeling overjoyed, he asked his mom if they can go. His mom replied with a big yes. They got ready and was ready to head out through the door. However, Mello, their dog, hadn't been out for a walk in a while, so they took her with them.
Thank you very much. So while you may not have described the setting particularly there in terms of the physical place, you did a good job with describing the mood of the story so far. What's the mood you're getting from her story? He got his results, he's happy. Who else is happy? His mom, right? So everybody feeling in a good spirit, right? So you did an excellent job with doing that. Now I need you to situate them in a place now. Same with Azaria. Where are your characters going to be? How do they look? What are they doing? What are they doing to show their excitement? Because you said they are excited and they're happy, but sometimes you can say those things and still what you're doing doesn't mean the same thing. So how can you show your readers or whoever is reading your story that they are happy without saying they are happy? So we don't want to say this boy is happy, this girl is happy, and end of story. We want to, instead of telling the reader what is happening, we want to show the reader what is happening. So how can we, what can they do in this story to show that they are happy?
Jumped up and down.
Jumped up and down excitedly. Very good. That's a good start. And mommy can also be hugging him, or mommy could be in the kitchen cooking his favorite food. Because, whatever the case is, right? Whatever your parents do when you're happy or when they're happy. And we got to describe the setting as well, right? The place they're at. So setting can also be not just a physical place, but think about the time. If I want to say it's morning, but I don't want to say it's morning, what's something else I can do to say it's morning?
The place is very bright.
That could be any time of the day, not just morning.
The sun rose.
Good, the sun rose. Or I woke up the same time with the sun or something like that, right? You don't have to say it's morning, but when you say that, everybody already knows it has to be the morning, right? Or if you say before going to bed, what time of the day we're talking about there? We're talking about the night, right? Before going to bed, because most people go to bed at nights, right? So when you think of setting, think of the place, but also think of time. Time can also mean something else too. Somebody was drawing something with Avatar just now, right? Is that the future or is that the past? According to the movie. Future? I can't really remember. I didn't look at it for a while. Future. So future on some of those robot movies as well are futuristic too, right? So setting can also be the time that the story happens, in the sense of, is it happening currently? Are people accustomed to seeing these things? Or is it happening in the future and you have robots who are controlling people then? Or dogs who can talk? Or those kind of things, because those things can happen, right? But you have to set the scene so that people expect that. Or it could be in the past. Instead of cars, what did they had years ago? What they used to use to go from one place? Donkey carts, right? Or maybe horse carts, or they would say carriage. Some places had trains as well, and some people just had to walk. If you want to go from here to there, you better start walking, right? Might take a day, might take 2 days, might take a week, or boats or canoes or, those different things. So when you set the scene, you're basically giving your readers a sense of where your story is happening in terms of time in the day, or basically giving them a sense of what to expect for the rest of the story. So if your story starts in Guyana, they expect the rest of it to follow up on that, right? Any questions? No? Everybody knows what they got to do? So y'all got homework again.
Wait, so we have to write it.
You're going to write one paragraph. So remember, you already have this paragraph written, right? So what I want you to do, don't tear the page out, don't erase all that you wrote, but I want you to write the same paragraph using the points that we talked about today to improve it. So, when you polish your shoes and it looks nice and shiny and so forth, so you're going to make your story look nice and shiny like a brand new shoe. By the way, how are you guys getting along for school preparation?
Good.
Good? Everybody got books and pens and eraser and sharpener and...
Not as yet.
Not as yet? So you're going shopping this weekend then? Okay, because I know you guys got a little cash grant, to buy some stuff for yourselves, right? So I hope you can get that started, because this weekend will be crazy with all the shops. So do that, and you have homework for just one paragraph. I know you already wrote your entire story, Alicia and Azaria, but I want you to now just focus on that one paragraph. Edit it. So when we come to the next class, we'll work on your second paragraph. So thank you so much for joining us today for our session with these beautiful young ladies who are preparing for school. Will you guys be at school? They're waiting on results actually, so they wouldn't be, but other persons will be at school. So they get a few extra days at home with mommy and daddy. So thank you so much for joining. And do we have more time? Okay, so we have a minute left. So as we're going to wrap up, I want each of you to tell us one thing that you learned from today's session that you didn't know before. It could be about what we talked about, or it could be about the topic for the day. We're going to start with Alicia and go around the table.
With how, like, you start a story, it should always have, like, a certain introduction. Like, you should tell the person, like, the time, what is the current, so they can get the flow with the story.
Definitely. So your setting is important, so your readers know what to expect, right? And it also makes your story interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you. So let's have Tiaro. One thing that you learned today that you didn't know before.
In a story, you have to describe this, like, the setting of the story. Yeah, that's basically.
Yeah, you have to describe the setting of the story.
So the reader can know what you're actually.
Yeah. So instead of telling someone, you want to show them. You know, when you're on a video call with someone and you take them on a tour of your room or your house, and you say this is what and this is what. So instead of telling them that you got a TV, you show them, oh, I got this big TV or whatever the case is. Or you have a plant, you show them the plants. Instead of telling your reader that the person is happy, for instance, you show them that this person is happy, right? Let's have Azaria finally.
You could have like different senses for for the composition. Not only you could talk about the person, you could talk about the environment.
Good.
And everything around her and whoever it is, and they could.
Thank you so much for sharing. So join us again next week as we continue narrative writing. We're going to try to wrap it up next week, so we should have a full story ready to go, and I'm pretty sure these girls will be happy to share with you. Thank you for joining. I'm going to hand you over to the Matt. Over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another session of Critical Math, grade 6 to 7. In our previous session, we have examined converting fractions to decimals. And so today we are going to do the reverse. So we are going to convert decimals to fractions, right? So welcome to another wonderful session, and let's begin. All right, so in our previous session, we've examined converting fractions to decimals. All right, and just to recap a bit, we said that fractions are rational numbers. Remember that? Fractions are rational numbers. These are a set of numbers, rational numbers. And remember that I said that a rational number is a number that you can express as, for example, a over b, right? Just a little notation where b does not equal to 0. And obviously, a and b would belong to the set of integers. So you're learning some new terms as we go along. So later on, you'll understand what are integers and all of that. Now, so we also mentioned that fractions can be expressed as decimals, right? So they can be expressed as decimals. And we said that two things happen. We have termination occurring. And the second thing is that we have recurrence. Let me write this properly. We have recurrence, right? So termination would suggest that when you express the fraction as a decimal, it comes to an end. Recurrence would mean you have some numbers appearing more than once, or in some cases in a particular pattern. For example, when we examine 1 over 2 as a decimal, we know it's 0.5. And so there is no number after that 5, right? So it terminates after 5. Then when we examine 1/3, we got 0.3, and it keeps going down to infinity. And so what we did is that we show that the number 3, right? The number 3 was recurring. So recurring occurs in a particular pattern, not haphazardly. All right? Good. So prior to that as well, we were looking at operations with whole numbers and so forth. So today, as it relates to our concept in terms of decimals, so what are decimals? All right. So these are also rational numbers. So decimals are rational numbers. So what you're going to find, you have them. So decimals consist of a whole number or you can say a whole and a fractional part. A whole and a fractional part. All right? And these are separated. Separated by what? A decimal point. Great. So based on our numbers before, 0.5, all right? So 1/2 equals 0.5. So it means the whole number here, you see that's a 0, right? So we have no whole number, it's 0. And then the 0.5 represents part of a whole, all right? Now, in terms of part of a whole, we need to understand the place value. So we are going back to place value. So in our previous session, remember when we examined place value? Right. So for example, if I have 34.7. So we know the place value for the 4. Let me use a different color here. That's ones, or in term, some persons say ones or units. So we can say units. And then the 3 represent tens, right? And as you go that side, you're increasing, or right, the 10 times larger as you go that side. Now on the other hand, anything after the decimal point, so here we have this first place, so this is tenth, NTH, tenth. And then if I add a 5, that 5 would represent hundredths. DREDTH. Right. So we have to understand the place value for us to more or less represent the decimal into a fraction. Great. So for example, we can expand 34.7. I'm going to use that. So we can expand 34.7 in this form. So remember, what is the place value of the 3?
Tens.
Right, so it's 3 tens, so that will give us 30, right? So it's 30 plus 4 plus, where does the 7 belong? So it's 7, so it's one place after the decimal point. So we write it as a fraction as 7 over 10. 7 over 10. So 7 over 10. So if we expand this further, we can have 34 plus 30 plus 4 and 7 over 10. So here we have our fraction, our first fraction, and that fraction is a mixed number, right? A whole and a part. Any questions so far? Everything is familiar to you, right?
Yes.
Wonderful. So on another page, so let's go here. So if you are asked to represent 0.42 as a, let me write my instructions clearly. So express. So the terminology would be express or write, express 0.42 as a fraction, and they would say in its lowest term. So what are we expected to do here? So 0.42 equals, tell me what to write.
42 over 100.
Wonderful. 42 over 100. Great. All right. Now, so we need to reduce 42 over 100. Now, there are many ways in which you can do it. Remember we did expressing a number uniquely in terms of its what? Prime factors. So you can use that as well, or you can use your regular method in terms of division. So if we're expressing this as, so let's bring 42 down here a bit. So let's express 42 as a set of prime. So let's use based on our knowledge before, let's use the factor 3. All right, so let's start off with, okay, 42. So this is just one alternative. So how did we get to 42? So starting off with our smallest prime. Smallest prime would be 2.
2.
Right? 2 times what gives us 42?
21.
21. Great. And then we can break down 21 into next prime, 3 times 7.
7.
And 7 is a prime. So 42, right? So we can write 42 equals 2 times 3 times 7. And then we can deal with 100. Let's put it somewhere here. 100 as a set of prime. So 2 and 50.
Yeah.
And then 50 will give us what?
5 and 10.
5 times 50. And then what are we getting for the 10?
2 and 5.
2 and 5.
2 and 5. Great. So 100 equals 2 times 5. There's another 2 and there's another 5. So what we can do then is that we can write our factors for 42 up here. 2 times 3 times 7. And then we can put it over the factors here. So we have 2. Let's put the 2's in order, right? 2. And then we have the 5 going after. Great. So then we can cancel out, right?
Yeah.
So we can cancel this 2 with that 2. So what? Anything else can cancel out? No other number can cancel out. So what's our final result? 7 3s, that's 21, divided by 2 5s 10, 10 5s
50.
50. So 0.42 is equal to 42 over 100. But we need to reduce that fraction into its simplest form. And so we have 21 over 50. Can it, right? Any questions?
Yeah.
So you can use the factor method to reduce the fraction as well. So you see how when we started off in our first session, when we examined factors and multiples, and you see how factors, we're still using it, we're in the 4th week, 5th week, we're still using factors. So you see how relevant factors are, right? So once you know what your factors are, it's easy to simplify the fractions rather than having to think, what number needs to go into 42 and 100 at the same time and things like that. So it makes your work a little bit easier. Any questions? No? All right, so let's start out with a simple one. Let me go to another page. You'll get the notes. So we start out with a simple one. Write the following as, let me say the following decimals. Write the following decimals as fractions in their lowest terms. So first one we're gonna have here is 0.5. That's very easy. And over here we're gonna have 0.2. Starting out very easy. And then on, what can we have? Put a simple one here. The third one, we put 1.4. So we have 3 scenarios. All right. So 0.5, 0.2, and 1.4. All right, so let's go through 0.5. So on another page, so 0.5 equals 5 over
10.
5 over 10. 5 over or 5 divided by 10. So we write our decimal as a fraction, 5 over 10. Is it in its simplest form?
No.
No. How can we reduce that? Now we know 5 into 5, 1, 5 into 10, 2, right?
Yeah.
So, but we can use our factors here. We can say 5 over, and 10 would be 2 times 5.
Yeah.
All right? So here we have a cancellation. Let me use a different color here, red. Let's cancel the 5. And so we have 5 into 5, 1, right? 5 into 5, 1. So our result is 1 over 2, which is a half. And that is a known fact. Great. Questions? Easy. All right. What was the other question? 0.2. 0.2. That's 2 over
10.
2 over 10. All right. We can use our prime factors again. 2 over 2 times 5. Here we'll cancel out the 2's. 22, 1, 22, 1, right? So our final result is 1 over 5, which is 1/5. Cool. So these two you know. Good. Third one, 1.4. So there's the first one. That's the second one. That's the third. 1.4. Equals 1 and 4 over 10, right? Notice how we're writing 1 and 4/10. Right? I know some persons are accustomed to writing it like that, 1. Right? So you want to write your number correctly so there's no doubt as to what is it that you're writing. So this here it looks like 14 over 10. So we do not want it to look like 14 over 10. All right? Like that. So the 1 must be extended because we haven't converted into an improper fraction as yet. All right? So make sure you write it correctly. Good. Hence, what are we doing with that 4/10? So you can write it like this. It's 1 plus, and we can, 4 would be 2 times 2, right? Over 2 times 5. Is that all right?
Yep.
All right, so remember the whole is added to the part, right? So we cancel here. So I'll actually have 1 plus 2 over 5, which is actually 1 and 2/5. So that's in essence what it is. So 1 plus 2 over 5 is actually 1 and 2/5. All right? So you see how we can express the numbers in various forms, all right? So here as well, we could have written here 1.4 equals 1 plus 4 over 10 from here, and then we transition from there as well. Any questions there? All right, so let's look at some harder numbers. What about 3.55? Let's call this a number 5. Let's put the number 6. 0.888. All right, let's write this a bit better. Number 6. 0.888. Cool. Great. See, some of us are using our factor trees. That's nice. Is it faster using the factor trees?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's much faster, right? And you tend to make less errors when you use the factor trees. All right. Go. Everybody's getting through fine. Zaria, Tiana, and Alicia. Cool. Nice. Cool. Make sure you're drawing your division line to show that it's a fraction, right? So just those little fine pointers. Cool. All right. So we're safe to say that everyone finished number 6. Number 5, sorry. All right. Take your time over it. Cool. Are we ready for the number 5? So we have 3.55 equals 3 plus 55 over 100, right? So if we're using our factor trees, 55 here, that would just be 5 and 11. All right, 100 give us 250, and we have 225. You come down here, 5 and 5. Right? Correct? Is there a mistake? Two times 50. 50 would be 2 times 25. And 25 would be 5 times 5. We good?
Yeah.
All right. So extending this a bit, so it's 3 plus, or 55 would be 5 times 11 over, here we'll have 2 times 2 times 5 times 5. All right, cancellations. These two. So 3 plus, that's 11 over what? 2 to 4, 4 5s?
20.
20. 20. So finally we have 3 and 11 over 20. You can give yourself a pat on the back if you have that. All right. So you see your algorithm using, so these are what we consider factor trees. Right. Cool. Number 6. Hope is not too much of a trouble, but you can still figure out what the answer is. All right, it's a matter of finding your factors there. Number look huge, right? I know it's gonna take some time. So you build on what you already know. Nice. Great. Nice. We're getting through quite fine here. Very nice. .888. All right, let's go to a new page here. Number 6 on this side. 8, 8, 8. Cool. All right, so 0.888 equals. Somebody tell me what we need to write. Because you've already done it. Fraction.
888.
888. Great. Over 1,000. Right? So one key trick too is so how many places you have after the decimal point tells you how many zeros you need to put. So that is like a shortcut. So if you have 0.2, right? It's one place after the decimal point. So you're expected to write 102 over 10. So you're actually multiplying, right? By 10 there. So if I have 0.22, I'll have 22 over 100. So that is what we do. All right? In some other instances, it can be seen as this, right? If I have 0.22, so it's another way of looking at it. All right? That is equal to, so I'm multiplying, so say put a 1 at the bottom, and I'm multiplying 0.22 by 100, right? So it's 0.22 times 100. And normally when you're dealing with fractions, right? Whatever you do at the top, you also do at the bottom, right? So I multiply here by 100 as well. So if I multiply that by 100, it means this point is going to move 2 places. So I'll have 22 over 100. So this is actuality what we do. But in terms of a shortcut, right? It's easy to, because there is in mathematics, you usually have patterns, and you look for the patterns, right? So one place after the decimal point would indicate 1 0. 2 places after the decimal point would indicate 2 zeros. So in our example that we have here with 0.888, we have 3 places after the decimal point. So that is representative of 1,000 because you have 3 zeros. All right? Good. So going back to our factor tree here. Let's take this off a bit. So 888 and not necessarily 0.88. Great. So start off with a 2. So then you got what? 444. And then you got another 2. And then you have 222. And then we have another 2. And then you have 111. Is that prime? Is it prime? 111. All right. Is it Brian? You sure? Is it? So when you add up 1, 1, 1, you got 1, 1, and 1, you got 3. So it's divisible by 3. So remember in our previous sessions we examined too, and some of the numbers, right? The number that you get is divisible by 3. So it's also divisible by 3. Right, so we have a 3. And what are you going to get? If you're not sure, you can always do your long division, right? 3 to 11. 3 3s, 9. How much remaining? And 2. Bring down to 1. 3 to 2 and 1. 7. 7 3s. So we have a 37. What about 37? Is it prime? Yeah. All right. So we can take that off. Let's go to 1,000. Huge. Good. Now let me put it more in the middle because the branch is going to go probably on the right mainly. All right. 2. Then you get what?
500.
500. Great. You got a 500. 500 could be split up into another 2.
10 and 50.
All right, you can use 10 and 50. That's fine. 10 and 50. It just means that we have to break up 10 to get 2 and 5 and 50.
5 and 10.
Hmm?
Or you could get 2 and 20.
5 and 10. And then we break up the 10 and we got 5 and 2. Right? So what are the factors? 2, 2, 5, 5, 5, 2.
2, 2, 2.
All right, so let's put them in a red circle. So we have that, here, here, and there. So let's put the prime factors here in red circles so we can identify where we are. The hanging branches. Hanging branches. All right. Those are our hanging branches. So let's represent. So red up here. So it would be 2. How many 2s we have? 2 times 2 times 3 here times 37. Let's put our bar because it's a fraction. Let's extend it a bit because, right. So 1,000 we're writing 2 times another 2. We have a third 2. And we have 3 5s? 3 5s. 5 times 5 times 5. Great. So let's cancel out now. So these 2 go, these 2 go, these 2 goes. Final result. Final. Final. We're multiplying.
One hundred 11 over 125.
What do we have?
111 over 125.
So let's put it here. Let's put it on a new page. So let's use black. 888 over 1,000. 1,000 is equal to, let's put our demarcation here. Previous page. Yes. So, what did you say?
111 over 125.
111 over
125.
125?
Yeah.
Is that correct? We can check it back. Over 125. Let's check it. 5, 25 is 125. And 3 times 37, right? It's 111. All right. Any questions there?
No.
It was a bit long-winded, but we all got the concept, right? Great. So that's it. So once you understand the concept, that's it, what it is at the end of the day. All right. So what about 0.153? How much we have? We finish? Oh, sorry. All right, so what you can do the one that we're having here on the board. You can do that for homework. So I'll see you next time in our next critical math session. All right? So the one that you're seeing on the board, you can complete that for our homework. All right? So thank you for watching. You gotta give me a cue, buddy.
It's making me sneeze.
Who make?
Editing.
Here.